Now live to Bulawayo, eNCA's Duduzile Ramela is there. Duduzile, the doors are closed, the voting is over. How did it play out?
The bell has finally rung. We're outside City Hall, Jane. A very good evening to you. And at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock, that bell going off, signifying that the vote is indeed done. It's about an hour and 19 minutes ago that doors closed around the country as vote counting begins. The votes will be counted manually. The results will be posted outside here. Let's talk about sentiment on the ground in terms of people here in Bulawayo and how they feel. Because of the centralized government system, people in Bulawayo feel marginalized. In order to get your ID, in order to get a birth certificate or anything like that, you have to travel quite far out to Harare in order to get that. So people here are saying that they're not able to get the services that they deserve because of that. Also speaking to people here on the ground, Jane, you get a sense that people in Harare are more open to talk about who exactly they want to lead them. They're more open to talk about the issues that are plaguing the country. When you come to Bulawayo, it's kind of a different picture. People are more reluctant to talk to us, especially some of the older generation, but the young generation not mincing their words. I had the opportunity to speak to at least a number of youth in Bulawayo this morning and this afternoon throughout the day. Let's take a listen to at least one youth who has a very major concern. Here's a clip of that.
I fear that now that our information has been collected, they now have our phone numbers, our addresses. I do fear that perhaps we might easily be traced if, for example, they say 80% of people living in Makokoba voted for Party A, then Party B is going to massacre us. Or yeah, I do feel an extreme sense of unsafety, and we are on standby. We might live running here, going to South Africa or anywhere else. So it's not certain.
I mean, that's a real fear. Is that fear, from what you've seen so far, justified?
That fear, Jane, is fueled by what will happen after the results are announced. People are very anxious, and as much as people do want a change and they can no longer hold on, there are also some undertones of fear where people are saying whoever wins or loses, they must accept that result, especially whoever comes out as the loser in this result of the election. So here in Bulawayo, we definitely do get a sense that people are nervous somewhat. It's not the entire picture, but there are people who are definitely nervous in terms of the outcome.
And what about the election observers? Again, from what you've seen, have they been allowed to do their job? Have they been able to access the areas that they'd be most concerned about?
100% here in Bulawayo, at least. Election observers definitely allowed to go into polling stations and see. Quite interestingly, we saw 2 election observers from SADC, and as they walked in, let me tell you about the process in terms of how they actually check. They walk in through the door, there's a register that they sign. They ask a couple of questions to ZEC officials in terms of voter turnout. In one station, they expected 337 people to turn out, but only over 200 people turned out in that ward to vote. So asking such questions and asking whether it went smoothly, and that's about it. They move on to the next polling station. What is interesting, though, is that the MDC had indicated that they will have their election officials guarding the posts at polling stations, especially when it comes to vote counting, to see that there are no irregularities. We have seen in previous elections where the result has been disputed because there was no transparency. But as we speak, behind these closed doors, we have election observers. We also do have some party agents who are keeping a keen eye on that counting process, which is manual. Jane.
Duduzile, thank you very much for that from Bulawayo. That's a big day in Zimbabwe, obviously, so our big night of coverage continues. Up next, my panel joins me to run through what could be next as we wait for the results to roll in.